Chapter 22 Diary in Blue. The 30s was endowed with another lady luminary with a pronounced penchant for men, an auburn-haired beauty, poised, sophisticate, with a sensuous, throaty voice. Mary Astor, one of the screen's great character actresses. Since girlhood, Mary's best friend and confidant had been her diary. She told it everything, and delighted in setting down a sublime experience with the memories still glowed. She could relive the moment and mark the high spots of her passage through life. Her Hollywood diary was bound in blue, its pages covered with fine, ultra-feminine, flowing script with graphologists have affirmed is remarkably free from inhibitions. Its contents were as free as her penmanship. The volume for 1935 covered her extramarital trysts with witty playwright George S. Kaufman, with whom she found exquisite rapport. It is odd she didn't keep it well hidden. The blue book had been kept tossed in a bedroom drawer, and with Mary's undies. One day, her physician husband was hunting a pair of misplaced cufflinks. When Dr. Franklin Thorpe idly opened the leather volume, his glance fell on a passage of extravagant admiration. Remarkable staying power. I don't see how he does it. The admiration was not for Dr. Thorpe. As Dr. Thorpe turned the pages, he learned that the man with such fantastic staying power was the urbane Kaufman, man about New York. He and Mary had met at the Algonquin during a New York shopping spree she had indulged in during the summer of 1933. This meant the good doctor had been a good cuckold for a good 16 months. Mary recorded her first encounter with her paramour-to-be, introduced by friend Miriam Hopkins, in glowing terms. Her first initial is G, or his first initial is G, George Kaufman, and I felt like a ton of bricks. I met him Friday. Saturday he called for me at the Ambassador, and we went to the casino for lunch, and he had a very gay time. After taking in a performance of Kaufman's Of Thee I Sing at the Music Box Theater, Mary and George did the town for the next few nights. Clubs, dives, penthouse parties. The disillusioned doctor's eyes popped as he read his wife's own record of her sexual itinerary. Monday, we ducked out of the boring party. It was very hot, so we got a cab and drove around the park a few times, and the park was, well, the park. And he held my hand and said he'd like to kiss me, but didn't. Tuesday night, we had a dinner at 21, and on the way to see Run Little Chillin', he did kiss me, and I don't think either of us remember much what the show was about. We played kneesies during the first two acts, and my hand wasn't in my own lap during the third. It's been years since I felt up a man in public, but I just got carried away. Afterward, we had a drink someplace, and then we went to a little flat in 73rd Street where we would be alone, and it was all very thrilling and beautiful. Once George lays down his glasses, he is quite a different man. His powers of recuperation are amazing, and we made love all night long. It worked perfectly, and we shared our fourth climax at dawn. I didn't see much of anybody else the rest of the time. We saw every show in town, had grand fun together, and went frequently to 73rd Street, where he fucked the living daylights out of me. One morning about 4, we had a sandwich at Reuben's, and it was just getting daylight, so we drove through the park in an open cab, and the birds started singing, and it was a cool, dewy day, and it was pretty heavenly to pet and French right out in the open. Was any woman ever happier? It seems that George is just hard all the time. I don't see how he does it. He is perfect. Dr. Thorpe then discovered that the heady New York affair had continued right near his own backyard. Kaufman and Moss Hart passed a few days in Hollywood in February 1934 before setting up their winter writing headquarters in Palm Springs. One morning, when Mary told Thorpe she was going to Warner's for a costume fitting, she raced instead to Kaufman's hotel. Monday, I went to the Beverly Wilshire and was able to see George alone for the first time. He greeted me in pajamas and we flew into each other's arms. He was rampant in an instant, and in a few moments, it was just like old times. He tore out of his pajamas and I never was undressed by anyone so fast in all my life. Later, we went to Vendome for lunch, to a stationer's shop, then back to the hotel. It was raining and lovely. It was wonderful to fuck the entire sweet afternoon away. I left about 6 o'clock. On subsequent weekends in Palm Springs, sat around in the sun all day, lunch in the pool with Moss and George and the Rogers, dinner at the dunes, a drink in the moonlight without Moss and Rogers. Ah, desert night, with George's body plunging into mine, naked under the stars. When Thorpe confronted his wife with this discovery, one might suppose the blue-bound book would go blank for a spell, but Mary couldn't wait to record her husband's reaction. He was very badly broken up for several days, used his final weapon with me. I need you. In tears. For the sake of peace and respite from all this emotionalism, I told him I would do nothing at the present. My main reason was for saying, that quite honestly, I want to be able to see George for the rest of his stay here without being all upset, looking like hell. I want to have the last few times of completely enjoying him. Mary's refusal to break off the affair caused Thorpe to retaliate. Soon, he was being seen with so many starlets that his digressions became the talk of the town. When Thorpe sued Mary for divorce in April 1935 and demanded the custody of their daughter Marilyn, adored by Mary, hundreds of eyebrows were raised. Mary did not contest the divorce. Thorpe had appropriated her tell-all diary before she moved out of the Beverly Hills mansion. It was devastating evidence. She could not face the prospect of being deprived of her daughter. She filed a countersuit on July 15th to retain custody of the child. Thorpe's lawyers revealed the existence of the diary the first day of the trial. The judge, Goody Knight, took a peek at the book and excluded it as evidence, but Thorpe's lawyers leaked excerpts to the press which left little doubt as to its tenor. Among them was, Desert Night passage, which quickly entered into folklore. The tabloids gave the diary full coverage, long excerpts sprinkled with asterisks. The public had a ball filling in the dots for itself. Older fans recalled another of Mary Astor's passionate affairs de coeur. A decade earlier, before the marriage, when as a budding film star during the making of Don Juan, she had been John Barrymore's young mistress. The court got an earful when the nurse of Mary's daughter related what had been going on Shea Thorpe after Madame Thorpe moved out. The nurse described a scene with starlet Norma Taylor, who got into a jealous brawl with Thorpe in front of the child. At the time, Norma had on red toenail polish and nothing else. Nurse reported that not only Norma, but 3 other blonde Busby Berkeley showgirls had slept in the doctor's bed on succeeding nights. And Thorpe's whereabouts? Well, her deadpan reply was, "He was right there in his bed, too." Mary got back mansion in Maryland, in spite of all the diary revealed of her passion for Kaufman. However, the court did not return her dearest friend. The diary was adjudged pornography and consigned to the courthouse stove. It is significant that these revelations did not injure Mary Astor's career. Far from it. 10 years earlier, a case like this would have finished off any star, but the Depression had been a factor, albeit painful, in promoting greater public maturity. In a few years, Mary would score one of her greatest successes as the seductive villainess in The Maltese Falcon. Kaufman had taken a powder during the courtroom proceedings. He sat them out in New York with heart. He dodged queries concerning the case, but once, when cornered by the reporters at the stage door of the music box, he allowed, "You may say I did not keep a diary." That is the end of this chapter.